live. Whoop, whoop. We are live and kicking. I'm so excited to bring you today's Confessions of a Global Changemaker. This is the next part of this incredible series where I'm bringing to you entrepreneurs, changemakers, purpose-driven soulpreneurs from all over the world. People that I've had the pleasure of working with, collaborating with, filming documentaries with, doing all sorts of amazing stuff, writing books with, creating programs. And there's so many things. And I'm so grateful to you for holding on for us today with the challenges of going live. We're 20 minutes later than usual. So I'm very, very blessed that you are still able to make it with us today. So I'm bringing to you today an amazing global change maker. She has been so incredible. Like, I went through a healing crisis last year where, like, the right side of my body, like my right hip, I woke up and I couldn't move. Like, have you ever had something that's gone wrong physically where you thought, oh shit, I don't have time for this? Right? I really didn't have time. I was flying to Holland the next day to go out and meet some influencers that I was being introduced to for a different project. I thought, fuck, I haven't got time for this. So I get on a plane and I go over to Holland, and my husband's helping me hobble around. And he's going, you've got to get this sorted. So I see a chiropractor over there. It works temporarily. The next day, I get on a plane to fly over to Florida because I was speaking at an event in Orlando and running my own event as well. So there I am. And I don't know if you've ever had it, but every single time I sat down, it was like I had a trapped nerve, and it was so painful. So sitting in an airplane seat for it was 9.5 hours because we were flying from London to Orlando. And I couldn't move. And when I got there, for some reason, I think we were flying to New York straight after that. And I remember my friend Beth, who I'd been on this Awakening Giants TV docu-series with. We've been filming together, and she'd mentioned some stuff about energy work. And I thought, now I know Beth, she works with women. I know she does this amazing transformational work, but I actually don't know exactly what she does. We're going over to New York in a couple of days. I'm pretty sure she's out in New York. I'm going to reach out and connect with her. And I didn't even think about what was going on for me physically. I just thought about getting over to New York and reaching out and connecting with her because she's such an amazing change maker. So I get in touch with Beth, and she's like, oh, yeah, when you come over, we can go shopping. I'm like, no. I can't move. I can't go shopping. There's no way I can do that. So she says to me, well, hang on, what's that about? Tell me a bit more about that. Anyway, God bless her. She clears her diary and works with me for an hour on this energy that I had trapped in my body. Well, I tell you what, I've never had anything disappear so fast. And she's not just a change maker. She's an amazing, like, I would say light worker, but lightning worker, because what she does works so fast. And then I said to my husband, you've got to have a treatment with Beth. So this isn't the only thing that Beth does, by the way, but it's just one of the things that she does to support entrepreneurs, just like you and I, to make sure that we are absolutely in our ultimate flow and our ultimate physical and mental peak, so that we can go out and continue being those change makers that we want to see in the world. Hi, Viola. It's lovely to see you. So without further ado, because of the internet challenges we've had to be a little bit creative with how I'm going to bring Beth on today. So Beth is currently waiting backstage on Facebook. I don't even know what you'd call it, Facebook video. So I'm going to share my screen so you can get to meet Beth. So come and say hi to Beth. And if there were any questions that you would want to ask a change maker who works with energy, who is a massive shifter of women doing great things in the world, but they've got some of those things that are holding them back. If you could ask that change maker anything, what would that question be? So pop that in the comments now, because we got that opportunity right now to ask the amazing Beth Larsen while she's with us. So I'm going to share my screen and welcome the beautiful Beth Larsen.
I can't tell if you can see me or not. So.
Okay, we can see you. Okay, guys and girls, please let us know in the comments box. Can you see Beth? Beth, it's so good to see your beautiful face again. It's been too long.
I know. I cannot believe it's been 2 years since we were in Ecuador.
I know, 2 whole years. And let's dig straight into it, because, you know, like, we were all there for different reasons. What was your reason for saying yes to Awakening Giants, because you were specifically chosen out of 100 global change makers to take you to a location that I don't think you'd ever been before, to put you under an intense amount of pressure and then film everything to see what a real leader does under pressure. Like, they chose you. Why did you choose them? Why did you say yes?
Well, it's so interesting how I even got involved in the project. I actually had been doing fundraising for the Water Bearers campaign. And that's how I got introduced to Sprite and Robin and the entire project. And when I first heard about it, I thought, I don't know what that's all about, but it sounds exciting. Tell me more. And I had been in several years of going through this journey of transforming from my old life of 20 years of being in the corporate world, and I had an extreme burnout. So it's funny that you started off talking about energy and energy work, because what's really funny about it is anybody who knows me from my old life would be like, what the heck is she doing these days? But energy is what changed everything for me. And when I found out about this Awakening Giants project, it spoke to me in every cell of my body. It's like that's exactly how I felt was awakening. And it's something that never stops. It really is a journey. So it's not like, oh, I changed everything and I'm this new person now and this is now who I am. It's like, no, I get to keep expanding. I get to keep evolving. I get to keep becoming more. So that project was partially, initially what spoke to me was the fact that we were doing the Water Bearers project with the Quechua in the Amazon, right? So that's kind of what brought me into it. But just the whole concept of it being awakening, evolving, changing, and making a change in the world. And, like wanting to make this bigger change. So,
and that comes about obviously through experience of seeing the change that you're making in the world. And once you've been through that burnout, like how many of you watching this right now have been like through burnout or close to burnout, or you've been so exhausted that you've heard yourself saying, oh my God, like I can't remember ever being this tired before. Like I've reached a new level of tiredness right now. And you must hear a lot of women saying that on the journey that you've taken. What are some of what's your background? Like, what did you go through and what did you learn? What did you learn as you went through it? Or looking back in hindsight, what would you say to someone else now that is kind of not recognizing the fact that they also might be going through it right now?
Yeah, well, for me, it was, as I said, I had a 20-year career. I was working in the retail industry. I started off managing stores, became a district manager, regional manager, VP of sales. I was constantly, from the age of 24 on, I was constantly traveling every single week with my job. So there were days I'd be in plane, trains, and automobiles all on the same day.
I know that one.
It was nonstop, and I was very career driven. For me, it was all about success, and I didn't recognize how much of the rest of my life I had put on the back burner for that success, but I did a lot. And all that travel, not taking care of myself, eating, sleeping, working all kinds of crazy hours, and wearing it like a badge of honor, honestly. And then eventually it caught up, and it caught up in a major way. I had adrenal fatigue. I had brain fog. There were times I was having conversation. I couldn't remember a conversation I'd had an hour earlier. That's how bad it was. And what started to happen, of course that makes me grumpy and irritable on top of it. And then I started realizing it was affecting my job. This thing that I had worked so hard for 20 years was suddenly, now I wasn't even being great at that. And it felt like everything was falling in. And I finally, I went to the doctor at one point, and he said, if you don't do something different, you're not going to be around.
I remember that conversation with my own doctor as well.
That's a hard one to take in.
Yes, it is.
And I realized it, and I used to always describe that period of time feeling like I was literally dying on the vine. That's what I always used to say. I'm like, I just feel like I'm dying on the vine. Like, I feel like I'm this flower that once was blooming so bright, and I'm just wilting, and I have no life energy.
I recognize that.
It's gone. And so for me, I walked away from that career completely, but I was determined to figure it out and to fix it. And you know, the high performer in me, at least I thought I was a high performer, was like, I've got to figure this out. You know, I'm better than this. I can figure this out. And what I didn't realize was that while I had been a high achiever, I hadn't been a high performer. Big difference.
Very interesting.
When I started training in high performance, I started realizing just how much is about energy management, and it's a completely different process. You know, high achievers are the ones who burn out. High performers are the ones who can sustain their performance over the long haul because they manage their energy very differently.
That's very interesting.
That opened up the world of energy for me. And then I became just all about energy and exploring it from all different angles. Mental energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy, as well as the physical energy. And that's been my journey, really.
And it's a powerful one, isn't it? I see Sparky is on the call right now. Hi, Sparky. Oh, we miss you, Sparky. And it's great to see you. Because I haven't got my other screen up, let me just go for a moment to the other screen just to see who else is checking in, because I can't see a thing while I'm sharing my screen. I'm going to have to stop sharing by the looks of it. While I'm sharing my screen, I can't see who's on the call. So let's go across and just see. Now here we go. Baba. Oh, hello. Oh, thank you. Viola, very true. Hello. It says Facebook user, so I'm going to say hello, Facebook user. We don't know who you are, you haven't put your name in there, but I'm guessing that might be Sparky, because it's come up. I just went and tapped in just to see if I could do it from my phone, but I'm getting feedback again. There's something about feedback today, is it? There's something going on.
That's the combination of Mercury retrograde and the full moon.
Oh, great. Okay. we're buggered then. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to continue sharing my screen so I can come back to Beth. So Beth, as you went through that process, you know, as many people do, right? You just take more on, you take more on, you take more on. And they say, if you want something done, ask a busy person, don't they? And so like you give more and more, and like they look like they're totally handling it. But what would you say, like for all those entrepreneurs, men and women out there right now, who are busting their ass trying to build their business, keep their customers happy, put systems in place, send invoices, do the marketing, which hat should I be right now in this moment? You know, for those people that are going through that, like, what would be one of the first symptoms that they should look out for, that they're actually approaching a burnout? I mean, you mentioned like memory loss, like forgetting things and that bit of brain fog. What are some of those other things that they should be looking out for that's a clear sign?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, is that by the time you start experiencing the physical symptoms, that's actually the last like foolishness. So it's kind of like you're well into it by that point. The subtler symptoms to look for are actually things like a lack of creativity, having to effort and do everything the hard way, like constantly doing things the hard way. Like these are much more subtler signs, but they're actually signs that you are stuck in your energy. And everything shows up in the physical plane last. So, you know, when we talk about manifesting things, you manifest your physical health as well. And so if you've got physical health issues, it's because something started at the subtle energy levels.
Yeah, and energy is everything, right? So give us some of the really interesting, juicy stuff that you learned whilst you were like, because you've really gone into energy in a big way. That's a massive part of your field. Like, you know, when I say to you, I've got this pain in my side, and you say, oh, well, that's just we just shift that energy. And I'm like, okay, how are you going to do that? Because you're in New York, I'm in Orlando, you're calling me via Zoom. How is it possible for you to even do that across the waves? Like, talk us through that, because there's people probably watching this thinking, how does she do that? And I don't even know how you did it. All I care is that you did it and it worked.
Well, that actually what I was using is emotion code. So if anybody out there, excuse me, is familiar with emotion code or body code, I'm actually I became certified as a practitioner in both of those. because I was using them for myself and started seeing the results for myself. And it's just, like you said, everything is energy, and there is no time and space when it comes to energy. So you can work on somebody remotely by proxy. We could be across the world and it doesn't matter, because when it comes to energy, it's all right there. So
I remember you were using, I'm due another session, so obviously I'm going to have to connect with you outside of this, but you were using like virtual kinesiology. It was fascinating watching you, because you were just like think. It's like your brain going off. It was like the Da Vinci Code, and you could obviously see things that I couldn't. And watching you was really, even though I was in a lot of pain, it was really fascinating to see you go through your process. And so the energy code, the body code, that's a part of what you do. What are the other things that you work on other than the physical side of things?
Yeah, so, it's interesting. Probably, just move my mic a little bit because I feel like I'm getting a little bit of back. There we go. For me, the biggest shift came when I recognized, and this is for anybody listening, men or women, when I started to recognize that we have both masculine and feminine energy. Like that's a different way of looking at your energy. And what I didn't realize was that I had been spending all my time in my masculine energy. So when I worked in a feminine field. I worked in the cosmetics and beauty industry. So I thought, the first time I thought that I heard this, I'm like, well, how more feminine can I get, right? But it had nothing to do with that. It's all to do with your energy. It's not a sexual thing. It's completely your energy. So what I mean by that is our feminine energy is our very creative energy. It's imagination. It's curiosity. It's openness. It's receptiveness. It's allowing. It's receiving. It's a softer energy. Then you've got your masculine energy, which is all the logic, strategy, planning, execution, making things happen. So what I didn't realize is I had totally cut myself off from my feminine energy. So I was amazing at strategy, planning, executing, and making things happen. And that's what I did for years and years and years and years. But without that nurturing of the feminine energy, I had cut myself off from a lot of creativity. I was efforting constantly, and I was like literally running on fumes. And there's so much to do with the physiology and the biology behind this as well. When you think of the way that we are built as humans to create, literally from the first 12 to 14 years of our life, our brains are in these lower level brainwave states. So, starting off at delta when we're first born, theta, alpha, and then we finally develop beta waves around the age of 14 or so. Those first 12 to 14 years of our life, our brains are in highly creative and imaginative brainwave states. And then we develop the masculine, the analytical and the strategy. Like when you think of a little child, they're always asking why, right? Why? But they're asking from a place of curiosity because they really want to know. Whereas you get to the teenagers and they're asking why because they're pushing back.
Yes.
Like,
how far can I push this?
Yeah, they're trying to get a little dated, and they're trying to decide, do I accept this or reject it?
Yeah.
Whereas for the first 12 so years of our life, most of what we're taking in, not only are we in creative states, but most of what we're taking in, we're also just taking in as fact, right? So it's kind of like we walk through those first years of life in a mild state of hypnosis. So that's where a lot of our limiting beliefs and things come into play too. But for me, what's most important there is that curiosity and that creativity. If we are not meant to create that way, then why were we born that way, right? So when we're creating anything in our life, whether it's something in our work or it's something in our health or it's something in our relationships, it's being able to start back at that space of curiosity and imagination and really, deciding and dreaming, what do I really want? And then from there, applying strategy and logic.
Yeah.
And then it becomes this flow back and forth. So I know we talk a lot about having balance in our lives, and balance is important, but balance is one of those things that you're constantly moving, right? You're flowing back and forth between masculine and feminine. You're constantly moving between different parts of your life. It's not a perfect balance of anything. it's a flow, and it's a flow of energy. So does this make sense?
It totally makes sense. Guys and girls, is this making sense to you? It makes sense to me.
Okay.
So it must be very interesting for you. Like, you must in a heartbeat know, like, if somebody, like I came to you with a hip problem and it was on my right side, like that for you is probably, oh yeah, that's going to be blah, 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 blah. Like, but when it comes to other joints, so is there like a thing, like an energy thing, like if it's your knee, if it's your elbow, if you've got problem in your right elbow, what does that usually mean?
Yeah, we do actually carry, we tend to trap different energies and different emotions in different organs of the body, different parts of the body. You know, a lot of times, actually, if you look at Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, she has an excellent chart in there of the different ailments and what they potentially mean from an emotional standpoint and from a belief standpoint as well. Because a lot of it is the beliefs, and then the beliefs trigger the emotions, right? So, but one thing that you can tend to think about is the right side of the body is actually the more masculine energy. So it coordinates with the left side of the brain, which is the logic and the strategy. And the left side of the brain flows over to the right side of the body, and then vice versa. So if something's happening on the right side of your body, it's a lot of times it has to do with your how you're moving forward in the world, versus if it's happening on the left side of the body, it's often how are you receiving or not receiving, or holding back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So that's kind of a generalization of it.
Yeah.
But it's, when you look at what side of the body things happen on, that's a quick and easy way to kind of look at things.
Isn't that fascinating? So actually bringing this back to some of the symptoms that you could be experiencing, like you say, before it's physical, well, most of the time, if somebody thinks about themselves going through a burnout or on their way to something like that, you know, like you say, it's the getting tired, it's the brain fog, and it's like, oh, I can tell that I'm burning out. But actually, your body's probably giving you some enormous hints that you're on your way to that before it happens here. It's almost like it happens down there before it makes its way up to here somehow. But it actually started there.
Yeah. Exactly. It started there.
I mean, it
actually started there. Yeah.
Fascinating, isn't it? I mean, I'm so fascinated with all of this, you know, the brain and the body and how those things work together or not. Or they're kind of working totally with one another, and they're giving you these hints, like these prods, like, yeah, I keep letting you know about that. I'm just letting you know about that. I'm letting you know again.
Yeah, and you know, the thing of it is that we get so wrapped up in stuff, and when we're not paying attention to the subtle signs, the body has no choice but to eventually just like say, okay, if you're not going to listen to me, then I'm going to make it impossible for you to not listen.
Right.
Like, that's just what's going to happen. And there's so much more to it. You know, we could totally get into the conversation of the lower brain and the amygdala and the cortisol and the adrenaline in the body and what's going on there, because that's an overuse of the masculine energy there too. But that's a fear response. Like, there's just so much that's involved in what's going on in these amazing suits of meat that we walk around in.
Right. These earth suits.
But there's so much, and when you try and take it down to just one thing, you're missing the big picture. You know, there's a lot of times people say it's mindset that's the problem. Oh, it's your energy that's the problem. It's the actions that you're taking. It's not any one thing. It's everything. It's all energy, ultimately.
Yeah.
But you know, if you just look at it from a physical energy standpoint, and then you're missing the point that we have mental energy, we have emotional energy, we've got the physical energy, and we also have a spiritual energy connection. Like, that was something that for me was completely missing. Well, I won't say it was missing. It was because it's never missing, but it was turned off on my side. Yeah. And so being able to connect to a higher power, to a higher source, to ask for guidance, to ask for support, that's just another form of energy. And I was totally tapped out on that.
Wow. So I mean, we could talk about this for a long, long time. I'm fascinated about this topic. And if you've got any questions for Beth, then do please put them in the comments now. because we're going to start wrapping up now, because internet challenges and all kinds of stuff. We were running late, and I'm conscious that Beth needs to get to her next client. So, and I'm so grateful that you made this time for us today, Beth. So let's dig in. Let's this is Confessions of a Global Changemaker after all. So what would you say is like a confession, something that you don't usually tell people or talk about, something that you've been through that maybe like you would never do it that same way if you ever had to go through that again, or if someone was watching and they're going through that and you could say, do you know what, here's what I did and it was absolutely the wrong thing to do? What would your confession be? What would you, and how would you do it differently?
Yeah, my confession is that, well, it kind of ties into what I was just saying. So it's like, oh, now I kind of feel like I'm saying something that I already said. So I confess it all the time, is that I was trying to make everything happen. I was a complete control freak, trying to make everything happen. And when it didn't happen, I was at a complete loss. And what I was just touching on with the spiritual energy piece, like that is probably, it's one of the things that I tell people now to start with, like that I check in with first, because it's such, it's this message of we're not in this world alone. Mm. And I was, if I have to confess something, I was constantly trying to do everything on my own. And I see it all the time with women who are trying to, because I work primarily with women, but women who are either trying to make it in a man's world, and so they're trying to prove themselves there, mm-hmm. or they're trying to, take care of everybody else in their life. And so they're trying to just put the brave face on, right? And they're not in it alone. And there's this amazing universal connection that is there. And so, I always start there now, but I didn't start there at all for, 40 some years of my life.
Mm. Why is it that it takes us to get to this kind of precipice when we start making that decision? It's almost like it's always going to happen to someone else, or it's far enough away that we don't need to think about it. And then it happens to us and you're forced. There's no other way. There's no other choice to actually do something about it. And it sounds to me that if you could do it all over again, that you would maybe ask for help and support sooner.
Yeah, and they say it's the things that bring you to your knees, right? And that's literally the point that I had to get to, because I wasn't listening otherwise. Yeah. I wasn't paying attention otherwise. And even when I left, my thought process was, I'm just going to fix this and I'm going to go back into it. That was what I started with. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix me, and I'm going to go back to what I was doing and do things the same way that I was doing. Like I didn't intend to do things differently, if you will. It was just a matter of a mindset of I'm going to fix it and go back to my old way of doing things. And that was probably one of the biggest aha moments for me along the journey is, no, the way I was doing it was all wrong.
Right. And it led to an entirely different career path for you. And isn't that funny? The universe has a way of doing that, doesn't it? Spirit, universe, yep. God, like whatever it is, it has a way of just saying, now, okay, I'm going to bring you to your knees. But then like when I rebuild this life or whatever it is that you're meant to be doing, when you do that, we're just going to give you a little nudge. And, if you start going back in that direction, we're just going to kick you back down again. So you might as well just do what we're telling you to do the first time. And it's like, all right, I'm hearing you.
Stop resisting, right? Stop resisting. And then when you stop resisting, you get to really expand. Yeah. And you get to evolve. Because until then, you're not evolving anymore. Yeah. So you start to shrink. You start to contract. And that's where I was. When I say that, I felt like I was dying on the vine. That was what I was describing, was literally I was contracting in my life. My energy was contracted. I was contracted. And I was not growing and evolving. So.
Wow. Well, what a lesson. What a lesson. Do any of you resonate with this right now? I know I certainly do. I've been there, and there are times when I can get totally in that masculine energy and I'm boom, 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 and I forget it. But then the universe gives me little signs. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm listening. But I know how to listen now. I didn't know how to listen before because it was all so crowded. And I think taking that time for yourself often enough, and I think practicing mindfulness has been really helpful for me, because at least once a day, at least I am checking in where I never did that before. Like, how many of you are practicing mindfulness right now? Is there anything that you're doing to get yourself into that zone? Because if you're not, then that might definitely be a way forward. Now, Beth, we've got Awakening Giants series. They're doing their soft launch in April, I believe. So we're going to be coming out.
Yeah, a couple years later. Yeah.
I know, isn't that fun? So what would you say was the biggest thing that you got from being on Awakening Giants? Like, did you come back and have like any major shift happen for you after going through that?
It's interesting because one of the things that came up for me on that journey, one of the final days of the trip in Ecuador, I'd been sitting with Sprite and we were talking, and I don't remember if she was asking me about writing a book or whatever, but this idea of writing a book, I'm like, I don't even know what I would write about. I don't know what that is. And we were talking, and what came up, something that came up was just this idea of finding my feminine. It's like, oh, that sounds like the title of a book. But that was really where the beginning of me exploring more about understanding the feminine and the masculine and creating the work that I do now around that. So that was actually a big opening that at the time just seemed like this little teeny thing that happened at the very end of the trip. Yeah. But it opened up a lot. And it continued to progress. I mean, it's been almost 2 years now, yeah. And it's continued to progress, and it's completely changed my signature program, which is now all built around that. So, that was a big thing for me, a very big thing.
I love it. Oh, so we're going to get to see Beth live in action when we launch the Awakening Giants TV docu-series. I'm very excited about that coming out. Very excited about what you're doing in the world, Beth, and how you're doing it and how you're showing up. I'm so grateful that you've been able to make this time for us today. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And guys and girls, let's just go across. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so that I can go across and see if we've got any other questions in here. Viola says, so very true. Had sharp intermittent pain right side of my head for a few weeks. Then it just stopped when things changed. Interesting. Selena, hello, darling. How long does change take time-wise? Do it, but sometimes I find myself back in the old way. I think, Selena, I guess it's how quick are you willing to change, I guess. I mean, that's a great question for Beth as we just start to run up towards the end of this. How long can change take? I know with me, it was less than 24 hours after having a session with Beth. It was less than 24 hours. So I guess it depends on how willing you are to change. Let's share the screen, get Beth back. Okay. We're really pushing the boundaries with technology today. You're back. Boom.
So it depends on what you're trying to change. If it's a physical thing, releasing a trapped emotion, that you can see change very quickly with that. If you're trying to change something in your life and there are limiting beliefs and behavioral things underneath it, you can release a trapped emotion and see it change very quickly. But if you don't change the subconscious programming that created it in the first place, you're going to end up right back where you were before. That's why you can't look at just one area of your life. Mm-hmm. There's a very interesting little snippet on YouTube. It's called The Backwards Bicycle. And it's awesome. I always show it to all of my clients as an example of this is what's going on in your brain. So it's this guy who, he and his engineer buddies, they wired a bike to go backwards. So when you turn it right, it goes left. When you turn it left, it goes right. And his friends did it as a trick on him. And he tried every single day to ride this bike, and he couldn't. And it took him like 80 days of hopping on this bike just a little bit every single day. And then one day it just clicked in. And it's like, that's an example of what's going on in your brain, is that, you've probably heard neurons that fire together, wire together. Mm-hmm. So we're wired a certain way, and it takes constant shifting yourself to the way you want to go to get new wiring to occur and to lessen the hold on the old wiring. So if you're trying to change a behavior or a pattern in your life or a habit, it takes constant refocus on where you want to go, and keep doing that. And then one day it'll just shift in. Mm-hmm. But how long that's going to take is going to depend on how consistent you are, how committed you are, and how much you're willing to release the resistance, meaning stop giving the attention to the old way and start giving it to the new way. So it just depends on what it is. It can happen like that, or it can take you months and years. Yeah. How hard are you holding on to the old way?
Selena, how ready are you? How ready are you for this change? Is the best question, I think.
Do you want to fight for the old way?
Right.
Or do you want to, hold tight to the way that you're headed? Yeah, it's where you're going.
That's a great answer. A brilliant answer.
I recommend everybody Googling the backwards bicycle on YouTube.
Bicycle. Fabulous. Beth, thank you so much. I know you've got to go to your next meeting now. You've only got 5 minutes before you go on there. I'm really, really conscious of respecting your time. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this kind of hour of power with us today. I think we actually covered a lot in the time that we had. I hope that you'll be back to come and see us. And Beth, if you are available around the 4th to the 7th of December this year, 2020, I'm running the Global Changemaker Summit in Miami, Florida. So it'd be great to see you there and hang out and have all of our partners and members and change makers and awakening giants all there together. It'd be fabulous for us to celebrate all the amazing achievements that we've made right up to this very moment, and get to plan out what our next achievements are going to be. So Beth, I'll be in touch. I'll send you more information about that. Thank you so much. I know you've got to go, so I'm just going to stop sharing the screen so that you can go and get on with the things you need to do. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Okay, so let's get back to here. So I'm going to pop that in here. So she gave the backwards bicycle as the a video to go and watch. It sounds very interesting, don't you think? The backwards bicycle. I know I'm going to go and have a look at that straight after this call. I just know that you are ready for the change that you want to see in the world. Like, if you're ready, put "I'm ready" in the comments here. If you're ready to go further, faster, then there's some shifts that need to happen in your energy, that need to maybe happen or in your environment, or maybe it's about shifting some of the people that have been in your life up to now. Maybe you've outgrown those people or places or things. Maybe you've that have been holding you back. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but certainly when we sold everything in January, just a few months ago, we sold everything. And we bought this boat, and my husband and I now travel full time with all of our animals. I've got a fur baby here wanting to get up, and another one behind us. It's just, but this is the thing. It's like, what are you prepared? I think that was a great question that Beth just asked. What are you prepared to let go of for you to hold on to the future that it is that you really desire? What are you going to let go of? What I realized was letting go of those things. There was attachment in the things that I was trying to hold on to. So it wasn't even just holding on to a life, or holding on to a person, or holding on to a career path, or holding on to, I've worked so hard on this product and I don't want to let it go. But sometimes you've got to let go to grow, right? And by letting go of those things, it actually created a whole new massive energy that's been a huge influx. So I remember Carol Richardson talking about decluttering, and I always thought, wow, it feels so good to declutter, and now I have. It's been amazing. But there's also decluttering with the people in your life as well. I would just encourage you to think, what is the future that you really, really want? What is it that you want to have in your life? What do you want to do in your life? Who do you want to be in your life? Where is it you're going? How do you plan on growing? Because when you get there, when you're looking at that amazing vision, and I'd encourage you to do that maybe after this call, is to, at some point this evening, just find a quiet space and really get into your groove of what does that future look like for you. And when you're playing in that future, when you see yourself like stepping absolutely into that zone of your future, then come back and write down the names of the 5 people that you're spending most of your time with. Like, who are those 5 people? If you look at your phone, if you look at your Facebook messages or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever method you're using to communicate with people, your emails, who are the 5 people or groups, places that you are spending the most of your time? Then go back to that vision that you saw for yourself. Go back to that vision and just look at that and match it up with those 5 people that are feeding your mind. Are they feeding it positively? Are they feeding it in a way that's moving you closer towards that vision that you're seeing for yourself? I want to challenge you to make a note next to each of those 5 names. Out of 0 to 10, 0 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. How do you score each of those people in terms of how they are supporting you to get to that vision, that amazing multicolor super screen that's playing your life on it? Like, how are those people helping you to get there? If they are 1s and 2s, well, you've got to do something about that, because it's not going to become a 10 without something changing. It's not going, a conversation has to be had. For example, when I did this exercise many years ago, I realized my mum was a 2 out of 10. She was a 2 out of 10 out of this list. And I looked at that number and I thought, crikey, I want my mum in my life. I don't want to, get rid of my mum. I want my mum in my life. What can I be doing differently? And, I realized that I'd never actually shared with her what my vision was. I'd never shared with her what it is that I want to do. I'd never shared the mission that I'm on. I'd never been brave enough to sit down and say, look, you're probably going to think I'm crazy, but here's why I've given everything up to do this. And, I sat down with my mum, I took her to dinner and I shared with her the life, the vision of what I saw. And I couldn't have a bigger, better, more supportive fan and ambassador than my mum now. And, I turned it from that 2 to a 222 out of 10. I really encourage you to go out, to just really, go out of your way to create a vision that is so crazy that you can't imagine how you're going to get there. You don't know what you're going to have to do, but it's exciting because you see that could be your future. And if it were, who would you need to have around you feeding your mind? Who would you need to support you, to pack your parachute, to enable you and empower you and motivate you and support you to get to achieving that vision? Because then at least that where there's a will, there's a way, and it can happen for you. So I hope that you've enjoyed today's show, and we will be back tomorrow. Who have we got tomorrow? We've got an amazing week lined up for you. Again, isn't every week amazing? We've had the most incredible entrepreneurs, and every single one of them has a totally different story. I'd love to interview you. Like, reach out to me and give me a little history of your story. Like, tell me about the drama. What's something that you went through in your life that you really, really learned so much from, that you believe the viewers of this show will learn from? Because I want to hear from you. So we had Elizabeth today. We've got Pete Cohen. Oh my goodness me, Pete, what a story. I cannot wait to introduce you to Pete Cohen tomorrow. Simon Hartley on Wednesday. I'm going to be going live with him from London, and Simon is responsible for me being confident enough to make the shift and the change that I've made recently. And it doesn't matter how far you go or how much you grow, there's another level of confidence that you need every time you stretch yourself. There's another human, another spirit that you're going to need in your life that's going to support you to go to that next level. Simon was that person for me. Last month, I mean, we're talking, this is in the last month, I've had this amazing, enormous shift. And it's because of him that I've had that shift. So I can't wait to bring him to you on Wednesday. Lina Orlando on Thursday. Lina is a absolute purpose-driven change maker, changing lives all over the world. She's based in Atlanta in America. She's doing the most amazing things. Eva Charlotte, she is on next Monday. We've got Angela Hoover on Friday. Angela is an amazing lawyer, and oh my gosh, she has been through the most incredible life-changing experience. I want you to hear about that, because every single person that comes on here has something that will resonate with you, will resonate with your journey, and will inspire you to go to that next level. So we've got an amazing week lined up. I can't wait to bring you these very dear friends of mine, these change makers, people who I very much hope that one day you will get to meet in person. But for now, I'm just bringing you my Rolodex of contacts for you to ask them any question. And you've got this hour with them. Like, ask them any question that you have. Ask as many questions as you can, because that's what creates the shift, and it supports everybody else as well. Even the dogs are excited about it. So have an amazing evening, day, afternoon, wherever you are and whatever you are doing. I'm sending you loads and loads of love. I will be back tomorrow at the same time. We'll be live at 5 p.m. GMT. So check what that time is for you, because I believe there's been a bit of a time zone change over in the States. So you might be an hour later than usual for a little period of time. I think there's 1 or 2 weeks where our time scales are a little bit funky. So just check that time. So it's 5 p.m. GMT, whatever time that is for you, just check it online and I will see you there. Take care. Mwah. Big love. See you later.